The wide-eyed buckeye.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Like blood, I don't know anything about that. Again, wow. Okay.
Thought about going to an AP conference and stuff.
Oh, yeah, where?
Decided not to.
I love it that we have this.
I know. Those are such good shoes. I showed my kids the video of them moving the shop.
Oh, I haven't seen, actually wanted to go to they had like a little open house there that I could go to. It was during the week, but I haven't been to their gift shop.
Well, but it's in Kelowna.
Yeah. Right.
Stuff, okay. Let me see this.
Oh. You saved me on some promise, so I'll just, okay.
You're the list with the spelling, you're checking your own list. Here we go. The first word was Blorski. I lost my Blorski at a carnival. B-L-O-R
about it today. We don't even know what's in Hey, it's March. How old am I? This is Julia gonna do. Did you come into practice? Well, did the sound get out? Yeah, the I was walking down the hall, and there was a junior saying, "We don't go to Christmas presentations." I mean, I learned so much from them. They're good. Yeah, they're really good, you know, and I was thinking about that, because yesterday, Mr. Schultz was in here, and he heard something one of them that really upset him. And he got really upset by Rebecca Oxford's presentation. And I was thinking about how much the SEs have helped me understand this culture better. Like at first when I got to those things, I was like, why do they do it like that? Right? And then listening to the students explain the way the culture works has helped me understand why, you know, they're like, why don't they just fix the holes in the road or whatever? And they're like, well, it's actually a lot more complicated than that, you know? So it's like, it really helped. I wish that more of the teachers would come, because I think it would help them adjust better to it. But I always think it's good to listen to students. They have a lot of insight about it.
Ahí vi el mensaje de lo de la computadora que le va a enviar a ahí. En un cambio público. Ya saben, de varios, de esta gente que no se da o que no se da lo que sea. ¿Y qué van a hacer eso con los monitores? Al monitor de la PC se lo van a buscar. Porque por eso tengo la mía, porque en esa computadorita ya yo tengo una edad que a mí también me pantalla grande. Hay tantas edades ya que. Mira, oye,
eso yo te estaba llamando. Yo estaba llamando.
Pero no lo aquí el saco.
No, pero que me estaba mirando, no, que tú me fuera por ahí.
Exacto. Dime, ¿estamos listos para esto?
Sí, te les pago.
Mami, tírale una foto, vamos a ver
La foto ahora de que.
guárdalo en el teléfono.
En silencio, no me gusta de para todo.
Ponle la cartera.
La pobre. Sí, pero está en silencio.
¿Lo puedes poner para que me tome una foto? Pero no, tira de allá arriba. Que se lo venga. Tira así. No me sube.
Yo soy la que te la estoy tomando. Ya. Ahí hay tres. Algunas para uno.
Ready.
I believe you.
I know, I have to go to the bathroom.
Me too.
¿Qué tipo de apoyo?
¿Cómo que para ti? Gracias a Dios. Acabo de comer un papel que me estaba más mío. Es que me persigue. Yo dejé allá un anuncio
Hoy mismo. Pero yo ahorita. Ayer. Marcelo Cajo me lo llevó. De que va a salir de esto. La gente me llama ese requerido que le falló la computadora.
Oye, vos.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? De Rosario, yo te llamé ayer. ¿No te lo dijeron?
No, no me acuerdo.
Yo te llamé y tú estabas sacando información. Y me estabas dando información. No te lo dijeron, pero yo te llamé.
Vamos a ver,
No sé, eso yo sabía que
Okay, Veronica, Sally, Rosalia, there.
Estoy un poco acelerada.
Ahora que cuando tú arranques, tú te das.
Ahora. Mira que eso, mami, lo que me hizo. Dije así. Dije que a Karina, en la de mañana, le hacía de que.
There are some attractive grays.
Mami, no me lo hago. Mami me enamoró. Ay, no.
Okay, so what you're doing is you're gonna write a letter, it's part of her presentation, the prompt, you write that down, and then you're supposed to develop a question, I don't know the answer, yes fantastic if you ask a question.
It's okay, it's okay. It's okay.
I'm just here to get started. Everybody's stood up. I'm gonna wear that.
Ya cierran la puerta.
Que deje yo tenga entrando ahí.
And then I'm going to ask you guys, if you're here to watch a presentation, I'd like you to please take out your cell phone or your laptop if you happen to have a laptop. I want you to make sure that you turn it off, all the way off, that you close it, and that you put it away. Give the presenter who's presenting to you today the gift of your full attention. I pretty much guarantee that you will not regret it. After the presentation, there will be a question and answer session. As I've been urging you all week, I ask that you try to think of strong, critical questions to ask the presenter. This is a way to push the final draft to its final stage. And I really appreciate the help that the whole community gives to the writers as they think through the final stages of their topic. There is nothing that strengthens a piece of writing more than having the chance to present it orally and hear it for yourself and then adjust it one last time before publication. Any questions about that? There's only one presentation this block because there were some questions about how the schedule was going to go today. So I wanted to make sure that nobody got interrupted by the bell. So you won't have to pay attention for as long a time today, so that to me should mean that the quality of your attention should be as strong as possible. And in my opinion, this presentation is one that thoroughly deserves that level of attention, although all of the presentations so far this year, I would say that about. But I think it's especially interesting that the student who's going to present to you has chosen a topic that we can observe outside of the walls of our school every day. As I walk around the city, I see the idea of art and urban art as being a vital question in the community of Santo Domingo, especially, but in all the cities I've visited in the island. I think it's a rich and important part of the Dominican cultural heritage, and I'm excited that someone chose to work with it. It's a wise topic. I want to say before we begin that I fell absolutely in love with the student who's going to present to you today. When I came in during fourth quarter of last year, was it fourth quarter you had SAT with me? Early in fourth quarter SAT, I was just getting to know Marcella, and I came in after a weekend at the beach, and Marcella said, "You got a tan." And no one, you guys, has ever said that to me in my life. So, here, please welcome Marcella.
Has anyone noticed these walls in our own hallway? Does it bother you? Are they ugly? Are they pretty? Is it art? Hello and good morning. My name is Marcela Troncoso, and for this semester's senior extended essay, the topic I researched was Public Responses to Graffiti Art. The title of my presentation is Living Walls, Urban Art or Delinquency. Graffiti as art is a topic of cultural debate around the world. Lack of permission for public placement leads to illegal work. The predicament seems crucial to young people and street artists. Those who break the law are often targeted for prosecution. Solutions to the problem that have been suggested include artists asking permission to paint in a specific area of the city, and also teaching the public about the perspective between art and vandalism in order to build positive awareness. Research suggests that if we wish to solve this problem of graffiti in urban environments, we should concentrate on changing society's view of graffiti as a rebellious act. If we expand people's definition of art, they will have an open mind and be more accepting to an artistic environment. However, it is essential that we understand what is art. Art is defined as a diverse range of human activities in creating visual, auditory, or performing artifacts, expressing the author's imaginative or technical skill, intended to appreciate for their beauty or emotional power. But deeper in, what is graffiti? Graffiti is often defined as paintings on a wall that can contain text or an image and tries to convey a certain message. It also ranges from simple from simple written words to elaborate wall paintings. Recently, I had the privilege to pass by these walls you see here. La Candelaria is the area in Bogotá that's famous for their graffiti art. There is even a specific tour to show tourists and those who are intrigued about the walls, to show that area and the specific walls. Many of you are familiar with the Wynwood Art District at Miami. Many of you might have even visited these walls. However, those who have visited may have not only noticed the Wynwood walls, but the walls around the district. These walls and sidewalks are filled with graffiti and messages that people are also interested in. Like La Candelaria in Bogotá, many tourists visit the Wynwood Art District for their street art. Of course, you may have encountered graffiti art here in our own city, even in the area in the colonial zone called Santa Barbara. Even though it's smaller than in the other cities I mentioned before, it draws the attention of many, and some of the walls symbolize cultural things from our country, like this wall here. This wall symbolizes a typical Dominican name, a lady in rose. These are a few of some countries who have put their graffiti art to positive use. Their street art has in a way increased and influenced the touristic aspect, and it has also created a more artistic approach. But even though there are many people that love seeing this type of art and even travel to visit, to see it, there are still others that don't share such view about graffiti. Being a street artist himself, Hampton says graffiti culture can also have negative outcomes, can create more divisiveness in communities and promote further delinquency. Although graffiti can have such benefits in our society, this street artist even acknowledges the fact that it can be damaging in our society as well. We here, and even you, might have this perspective about graffiti. There are also some that agree with Hampton, but not to that extent, and think that graffiti is influenced by location. Gabriel Laxman, a graphic designer and street artist, pointed out that those who pass by graffiti rated as negative and crime-based depending on where it's located. If it's done in an abandoned neighborhood or place, people will see it as something harmless, will not pay any attention to it, and will not see it as breaking the law. While if it's done in an area like the center of the city or close to an important building or area of that city, it will be viewed as crime-based. So I have this question for you. Do you agree with these perspectives, or do you think that graffiti should be considered art? I want to show you and others where we can draw the line of graffiti as art and graffiti as vandalism. People think that the only solution to this issue is to make graffiti legal. There is indeed a series of countries who have legalized graffiti and use graffiti in a very positive manner towards their country and their citizens. Nevertheless, there are a plethora of other solutions that have been taken into consideration and will also help the issue in a positive manner. Teaching others about the difference between graffiti as art and graffiti as vandalism is one of those solutions. Laurie A. Eldridge, an independent scholar, says that in order for others to see the distinction between graffiti as a crime and graffiti as art, one has to be informed and taught about the differences, so later on, instead of viewing it as an illegal act, one can look at the bright side of it and put it to good use. She bases this statement by a study done in a school where street artist Benja taught students about this difference. His goal was to educate students about the difference between vandalism and graffiti art, so that they would stop vandalizing school property and their neighborhood, risking getting arrested, and instead turn their interest in graffiti in a positive manner. Remember this photo I showed you? This is an example that education is crucial for this debate. Majority of our high school hallways have something written on it, a message or a quote, which can be seen as a form of graffiti art. Seeing this every day when you walk to class can influence you to think about graffiti in a positive way. 71.88% of the students in the high school student body see graffiti as art. Those are the ones who the messages and quotes are making a difference to them. Creating systems of permission that acknowledges graffiti as art is another solution. Talking about a street artist in the article, An Unselfish Act, Graffiti in Art Education, it says that he will ask permission to paint in an area of the city, but does not want to be told what to paint. Street artists also view their graffiti as a way of expressing themselves and being able to touch those who look at their art. Street artist Morley said that this graffiti was an actual message. This was art for the sole purpose of offering a gift to anyone who ran across it. When doing it with permission, graffiti can have many positive influences in our society, like Morley said. During the build stage of the Senior Extended Essay Project, I wanted to see what CMS high school students think about graffiti art. So I built a survey consisting of questions that would reveal their opinions. In my survey, I asked questions about graffiti as art and graffiti as vandalism. As mentioned before, 71.88% of students, more than half of the respondents to my survey, believe that graffiti is art and believe it's a legitimate form of expression. I am pleased that a large population of Carol Morgan high school students see graffiti as art. Although my survey sample was small, this data suggests that art education matters. Graffiti, also known as street art, is a tradition that creates a continuous discussion. With all this said, I hope I have convinced you to think about graffiti as art and not vandalism. People, and specifically adolescents like us, have a need to express themselves, and graffiti is a way for them to do it. Programs that promote art in public places are the best way to change public perception of this vital urban art form. Art can be subjective, but I believe art is art regardless of where it is shown and whether or not it's legal. Thank you.
You mentioned that that kind of drawn a line on what the definition of legal would be. So can you expand on that for me, on what the details?
Well, I believe that whether or not it is legal is if you ask permission. Because of course, you are not going to paint in a private property. But I believe that if you ask the owner of that private property, if you can express yourself and create an artwork in their walls, and they let you, then that's legal, because they're doing it with permission.
So follow up on that. The second issue around that is the freedom of expression.
Yes.
So where do you draw the line on how much freedom the artist gets, or how much the owner has on the say of graffiti?
The owner of the artwork or the owner of the property?
Of the property.
Well, I believe that they should be able to express themselves, but obviously to an extent. Because if you're doing it in a private property, of course you're not gonna paint like whatever you want to paint in it, like in an area that's not really private and that's more like a public to the public. So I believe that. Okay, Maria.
What is your interest in this topic?
Art has been part of my life since I was little, and I wanted to talk about a topic that I was really passionate about, and for me that was art. So I started researching issues that art has within the world, around the world, and I came to encounter this topic. And I had other options, but when I talked to Ms. Russell and when I researched more, this topic seemed more powerful and more meaningful. Mr. Gamache.
Have you ever participated in any graffiti yourself? And do you have any plans to do so?
I think I have done a graffiti.
Just the legal parts, okay?
I hadn't been able to participate in graffiti art.
It would be my suggestion that you go out there tonight with a can of spray paint and do some graffiti immediately.
Mr. Gamache's house.
Yes.
That was permission right there.
But you would not do that because you believe that people should ask permission.
Yes. Yes.
We were talking about private property. What was your stance on walls, public streets, things like that? Were you saying that people should be able to do that and without asking permission because it belongs to the public? Or they should, I mean, what was your position on that?
Well, of course, if it's like a part of like owned by the government or school property or like a church, I don't believe that they should express themselves there. But let's say like in the pictures I showed here, these properties were public and they were like there wasn't anything there. It was just like an open space but with walls, and they were able to express themselves there. And I think that's open to the public, but nobody has to say like who owns it, the property. Ms. Ross.
Are you familiar with the terms low art and high art?
Not really.
So low art means art that's considered sort of common and created by people who are untrained artists, for example. Whereas high art is the art produced by people who are highly trained, that's highly valued, that's created on permission, often with a religious purpose or something like that. Do you feel that graffiti is a high art form or a low art form, or that it resists those definitions?
I think they are both, because Keith Haring is considered high arts, but he does his art is street art, so it can also be considered low art because it's done like in walls and not in secluded, for religious purpose. So I think that graffiti art is a combination of low and high art.
There's a couple things I want to say. One, if you're a junior or sophomore in the room, I hope you're starting to think about your SAT topic for next year. That's going to be fun. Good work with you. But
Good morning. My name is Jose Antonio Rodriguez, and this semester I researched the influence of media in U.S. politics. The title of my presentation is "No News is Good News: The Problem of Media Bias in the Digital Age." The influence of media in U.S. politics has come to a point that has begun to have negative consequences because of an increase in media bias. The United States mainstream media has lost the trust of the American people, as 63% of its respondents doubted the veracity and neutrality of the stories they get from the mainstream media. Currently, the United States has not taken any significant initiative to diminish media bias or how to deal with it. If we wish to solve the problem of media bias and its effect on the trust of the American people, the American people have on mainstream media, we should concentrate on informing the people regarding the biases of all news organizations. The problem. Throughout my research, I noticed that the United States media is losing the trust of the American people, and so people are resorting to online news sources that are more susceptible to spreading fake news. The distrust of media represents the divisions in America, as lack of trust comes from the whole political spectrum of Americans. Therefore, depending on what news you watch, you have different opinions, and both opinions don't have a compromise. And so people can come together, causing bigger differences because of political lines, between political lines. In a Gallup poll, it was found that Republicans' loss of trust in the media dropped from 32% to just 14%, while Democrats fell from 55% to 51%. It is clear that there is less trust in the Republican group because most of the media is controlled by the Democrats, showing us the big political divide. Democracy is affected because it can become an unfair system if one side takes control of the media and begins to brainwash the American people. About half of the 32 outlets have an audience that pretty clearly leans to the left, while 7 have audiences that lean conservative. This means that the media is mainly controlled by the Democrats, which gives the Democratic Party an advantage. On the other hand, the only large mainstream media in the right is Fox News. Fox's domination on the political right and American conservatives Fox dominates the political right, and so most of the ideology in the right comes from an interpretation of Fox News, which is not good, as it is also biased, and they have an ongoing war between liberal media, which worsens the divisions of the American people. As you can see here, the media organizations are rated according to their audience. So if they're more liberal, they're more to this side, and more conservative to that side. And before news, these are corporations that have to make money networks to promote their own political ideology. In this division, Haim Saban was to elect Hillary Clinton, as he and his wife gave $10 million to the HRC campaign, and his network stood very against Trump's campaign. This is what is causing the people to resort to internet-based sources they believe are going to be better, but they result as unreliable sources that spread fake news. I made a survey to test media literacy skills and our current events knowledge. The majority of those who took my survey were either politically oriented from the center and from the right wing of the political just portray people around us. I would like for you to quickly read this short excerpt. Goes real. And in the survey, it is incredible how most of us are not able to identify fake news in the survey. Here, you were able, but therefore people took it as a. This is the issue with fake news. It is very hard to identify unless we build an understanding of current events and media literacy, where we could detect any red flags the article raises. People were able to identify the fact-based source, but depending on their political orientation, some said it was biased, opinion-based, because they did not agree with the fact, which is also a big issue that affects us nowadays. And the last excerpt in my survey was opinion-based, and people were able to identify it. As I began to receive the results, proposing Karen Morgan School a mandatory course of decided to edit its syllabus research. So what is highlighted is what I added to the syllabus. The course description. This course is a mandatory credit every Karen Morgan student should have in order to be able to graduate. In an era of information, students should be able to know how to process all the information out there to be well-informed citizens. The goal of this seminar is to have open discussions of controversial, political, and social issues and raise awareness of current world events. I want to go into law. Course objectives. These are some of the course objectives that already, the ones that are not highlighted, were already there. And I added being able to view international and American issues that are in common with us at a national level. This is important because there are many issues in this country that we have in common with the United States and others. And it's important for us to learn of the mistakes of others. So, the course discussion topics. So they are: how can we become responsible citizens in the world? Digital citizenship challenges and responsibilities. Poverty, hunger, and lack of drinking water. Climate change, gender issues, and I added media bias. How can we deal with it? Dealing with fake news. Media in the Dominican Republic and Haiti and DR relations, as it is also a very important thing in our media. Course media literacy topics. Google Apps 101, blog writing, social media literacy, and I added mainstream media literacy, including Fox News, CNN, ABC, and CDN, which is a local mainstream media company, and fake news literacy to be able to identify fake news and the red flags. In conclusion, the United States politics is greatly influenced by the media, and lately, false and biased sources have taken more control over the people who read the news because of a recent divisive election where each side was doing anything they could to win the presidency. Because of media bias during and after the elections, the American people are resorting to sources that tell them what pleases them, and these sources tend to be unreliable. In order to have the people well informed, I propose to teach media literacy and current events as a mandatory course in the school, so that each and every student knows how to detect biases and false information. Biases will never disappear, as it is a part of being a human. Therefore, we should educate the people to learn how to deal with modern media. The mainstream media in the United States is a powerful industry that, like any other industry, wants to maximize their profits. So they appeal to their audience and maintain them happy by prioritizing topics that are favorable to their viewers. I urge Carol Morgan to teach modern media literacy and current events as a mandatory course, because information is driving the world, and if we are well informed people, then will make better decisions. The surplus of information out there has facilitated people to be informed and demand more of their governments for the better. But within all this information, there are a lot of false and they mislead readers. Students in Carol Morgan School are most likely the future leaders of the Dominican Republic. And if we have leaders that are well informed and are not misled by false and biased information, we would be better off. Thank you. Questions?
Jose, I have a question for you. Can you repeat the statistic? You said that the mistrust in media, there was a vast difference. So the Democrats, I think you said, have dropped from 55 to 51%?
Yes.
Have I heard that right? And the Republicans, though, was a much greater divide. Can you remind me what those numbers were?
Yeah, the Republican loss of trust in the media dropped from 32% to just 14%.
What? So, I mean, you have a more than 50% decrease among Republicans and still only about 4 points down. Do you have any insight into how to explain why there's such a great divide between those two parties?
Why the Republican Party lost more trust?
Exactly.
Yes.
Significantly.
Well, the media is mainly controlled by the left, and most of the mainstream media companies are from the left. Like if we go to the so here you can see like NBC, ABC, CNN, MSNBC, all the big ones are mostly in the left, and only Fox News is in the right. And the right also uses, in campaigns, they use the fact that media is mostly in favor of liberals. They use that fact to favor them, and like they were saying like the media wants to silence them and all that. So it causes like a small rebellion between conservatives, yeah, that's why the Republicans usually don't trust mainstream media.
Can I just ask one more follow-up question then? Is this more evidence of simple cognitive dissonance where Republicans in this case, and I'll just generalize here, might just be hearing something that they don't wish to believe or that goes against what they believe rather than something that is untrue? Do you see the difference? Like, do you feel it's more of a perception issue on either side? Or do you think that the media themselves are generating factually untrue information to cause this distrust?
Well, it's not untrue information. It's that they shape, like you can shape an argument in your favor with using some information, some facts that favor you. But like as one of this one was the excerpt I chose from like a fact-based source. And it says that like 89% of broadcasters in the Republican side, if you watched Fox News during the election, they always were talking about WikiLeaks and Clinton emails and all that. But if you change to one in the left, favors the left, it was more talking about his taxes and all that, and some of his things. So that's the thing that it's not that they don't agree, it's that they don't agree, but they usually talk more about what they don't agree. So they don't talk about everything, they talk only one side of the story. Right.
In your opinion.
Yeah.
You said, when you showed.
And what I've seen of the information.
Okay, can you go back to the slide where you showed the media companies? When you were on that slide in your presentation, you said, this means.
This one.
No, the chart, that one. You said, this means that they're controlled by the Democrats. And I've been pushing you on this all semester long. I need you to explain for me how, looking at this chart, I can, what makes you believe that those media sources over there to the left of the zero are controlled by Democrats? Do you have any proof of that?
Well, their audience is mainly, they lean to the left, and this is made based on their audience. And
You're saying the left are the Democrats?
well, they include the left, but you can be from the left and not be a Democrat.
Okay, so the Democrat includes the left, or the left includes the Democrat?
The left includes the Democrats.
Okay, so you're saying that what you said in your presentation was that they're controlled by the Democrats. Is that what you meant? You think
Well,
the Democratic Party controls those media sources?
Well, their audience, they use them to favor them in the campaign, and they, like, for example, in CNN during one of their advisors, Donna Brazil, she was fired because of doing that, but she gave the debate questions to HRC, and so that's one side of being favoring the Democratic side and the establishment of the Democrats.
Okay, but you
Because-
didn't mean control. You don't mean that you think the party actually controls.
No, but they do favor the establishment of the Democratic Party. Like, for example, Bernie Sanders was like, he had more negative press than Hillary, for example.
And you're saying that's true for every single one of the sources on the list that's to the left of the zero?
Not every, but mostly the mainstream media,
Which ones and which ones not?
like MSNBC, CNN, but BBC is there. So BBC, his audience is mainly liberal, but they are not mainly part of the American electoral system, and like the campaigns.
Okay, and so can you go forward to the slide where you showed us the survey?
That one.
I know when you showed us the thing and you asked it, okay, so
Okay.
you asked us that question expecting us to not be able to tell the difference, yeah?
Yeah, but well, if you know about current events, well, if you maybe this kind of like you would know that is false, because that is
And
would
what
be
were our results? How many people in this room were fooled?
like 4.
Okay, so what's the difference between our community and the community that was fooled? Because you showed us.
Well, it was the same community, but I don't know why.
Okay, so that's my question is, can you please try to explain the results?
Okay. Well, also I also sent it to family members in the States, and they were mostly the ones that knew it was fake news. But then I sent it to friends here in DR, and they couldn't identify it was fake. A lot thought it was biased, and a lot thought it was reliable, but like only 32% thought it knew it was
Okay,
fake.
so there were very different sample groups.
Yeah.
And that explains your
Yes.
results. Okay, so the number of people who were fooled by the fake news was increased by the fact that these were not American citizens.
Yes,
Okay, that explains it.
thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
Yes.
There should be lots of them.
Any comments?
Okay, so you know I hate the word biased. I like to say point of view. Because, again, bias has this negative connotation, and the news has a very important job in a democratic society, right? They're called the fourth estate.
Yeah.
They're there to keep politicians in line and to keep the democratic public aware of what's going on. And I am very worried about what you've seen, what you showed us, this new perception of the press as being untrustworthy, where people are turning to, Facebook viral sites and Breitbart and other really, far right and far left fake news. That's what scares me. But the news in the middle, these people you're talking about, CNN, Fox, Slate, New York Times, these not in the middle, but these mainstream, are they not allowed to have a point of view? Isn't it sometimes their job as well to have their opinions, especially on controversial issues like building a wall and immigration, on tax policies, on emails?
But I think, yes, and it's, as I said in the presentation, it's impossible to stop the influence of their point of view in the topic, and the issue is that most of the media have a point of view that favor the Democratic side, the Democrats, and that's causing a lot of trouble now because Hillary didn't get elected, and so when they talk of all those negative things about their point of view, they're causing a lot of uproar in society, and I think that's even dividing more the American.
But maybe there should be an uproar, right? I mean, if it's their job to, just because they're saying it's negative, are you saying it's just because the president's Republican that they're giving him negative press? Maybe they're giving him negative press because he's doing something wrong. Is that a possibility?
But 89% of what they talk about is like the same thing, which I have here, so they mainly talk about, right?
You guys, are you getting restless?
Here.
I just want to just give you a second.
So-
Are you getting restless? Stay paying attention. I think this is an important discussion. I want you especially to think about the precision of language. Like, sometimes people use words, they use the same words, but they mean a little slightly different things. See if you could detect that going on. Like, really pay attention to that quality of this discussion.
Russia's meddling in the U.S. election, the Obamacare repeal, immigration enforcement, and Trump's allegations about President Obama wiretapping him. And there's like for example, the Obamacare. No, wait. Another one.
I mean, these are constitutional issues. The press has to report on these. Like, this
Yeah,
is,
but when we talk about immigration enforcement, like, if we see the facts, Obama did, which I'm not saying it's wrong, Obama did deport more than like a lot of prisons to like a guy that I don't know his name, like before Bush and Reagan and all and Carter and yeah, and so and they didn't even talk about it, but now I think it's the ICE, the organization that
ICE,
appears in neighborhoods, and they make a huge deal about that small incident, which it's sad they're separating families, but this has been happening for a long time. And why is it causing an uproar now and not when Obama was president?
so what can I do as an American voter to sift through this? How can I figure out the truth? Well, what's your recommendation?
Well, if you could watch I don't know if you would watch Fox News, but if you would watch Fox
No,
News
I don't.
and CNN, if you would watch both,
Okay.
if you would watch both sides,
Okay.
I think it would help you because you would see some like both points of view, and they talk about the positives of their side and this and that.
Am I allowed to yell at the TV while I watch Fox News?
Yeah.
Okay.
First Amendment.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
But I would say not at other people just because they do, right? Like that's the thing about civil society.
I kind of want to open the question up to you and to the room as a whole, especially students. Do you guys think that news media is subjective or objective? Do you think that there's any such thing, and Ms. Kelsey was saying to resist the term bias, right? She was saying point of view. Everything has a point of view. Is Alexandra still in here?
Yes.
You're looking through your camera, right? And you're framing things. So anyone who sees the pictures she's taken during this presentation, the view that people have of what senior oral defense is all, the choices that Alexandra made about what to shoot. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's a perspective. So it be unbiased. What do you think?
Well, it all depends on how it's presented and how on the words you phrase, like you said, can change different things.
Are you guys talking, because you brought this up too, Jose Antonio, are you talking about the use of rhetorical strategies? Like, we have those things, ethos, logos, and pathos, right? Like, you can make an emotional appeal, you can make an ethical appeal, you can make a logical appeal. If you go back to that slide, with that shows the spread of the, are there differences in the amount of ethos appeals, pathos appeals, and logos appeals that those different sources make? Or are they just looking at different sets of facts, or using different words for the same facts? Like, what's really going on there to create subjectivity, a perspective that's free?
Well, they are usually, like, you have the difference of others that use facts like as going against each other, but some are like sensational and all that. Like,
so what would sensation be? An appeal to ethos, an appeal to logos, or an appeal to pathos? Emotional appeal, that's what you're talking about.
So, like, for example, the Hannity show, America, and like, it's all like sensational, and from the beginning to the end, he's like showing you the negative side of the liberals, and it's like you end up like, if you watch that show one night and you end up being like, oh, I'm gonna vote for this guy now, but like he doesn't show you the whole picture. He just shows you the negative of the other side.
And do you think that human beings are capable of knowing what's subjective and what's objective?
Yes, like, well, now because of all the information we have and from both sides, we're not tricked that the U.S. Army goes to Iraq to help small kids and all that. Like, it's much more of a dirty business than that, and a lot of families die and all that. And but like before the Vietnam War, they could tell us that they were spreading freedom and democracy, but now we know like to initiate a war and all that, it's very hard now because we know more about the issue.
Because, so you were saying this spread is working to educate people more about the
Yes.
fact that, so it's a positive thing. I thought you thought it was a negative.
Well, it's a positive thing that you have different opinions because that's a democracy. But the issue is that most of them are from the left, and they usually just talk negative about the other side, which is the same thing in the right. Just that, which I'm calling out both sides because all this is causing people to go to resort to Breitbart and to fake news and all that, and which is deepening the divisions in the United States, and it's what's causing like all these fights between rallies, and still now you have like pro-Trump rallies and then like the Antifa guys, or which are violent, and they get into fist fights and all that, when at the end like they have a lot of common ground there.
So you're addressing the polarization. Polarization. I think I understand. Do you guys understand?
Yeah.
Mom has a question.
How you mentioned that some media sources only show half the truth. Do you consider these to be fake news to a certain extent?
No, it's just their point of view. It's like an opinion show, like for example, the Hannity show, or if you have like you watch Chris Matthews or something like that on MSNBC or Fox and Friends, and so they're not fake news, but they have a point, but it's like they just show the negative side. Like for example, Chris Matthews talked about, like he compared Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump to the sons of Saddam Hussein, and he was saying like how this could have so many negative things to the White House, have some negative impact, when there's also a positive side that like Jared is a very like talented man, and he can do a good job, and he's prepared for the job, and Ivanka, she's working for free. I think they have to pay her $1, that's it. Right on.
Going to your solution, I think that's great. As a history teacher, gone to conferences a lot lately, and that is all everyone is talking about, is we've got to teach kids media literacy. It's just as important as teaching, reading and math and all the normal subjects we teach, because we are so inundated. What is your opinion? Is this situation going to get better or worse given the U.S. president's current relationship with the press?
Well, it's gonna be pretty bad for the next few years, and I don't know what will happen.
Is Twitter the answer, or is it part of the problem?
Well, the issue with Twitter is that you tweet something and it has it causes an uproar, and
The president tweets something.
yeah. But I agree, he shouldn't be addressing all the attacks they make on him, but the thing is that it's I don't know why they have to be constantly attacking him, and they how can they if they're doing that, they're causing a lot of people to risking their lives and all that, because I'm sure if you go UC Berkeley, there was, I understand if they don't want Milo Yiannopoulos something like that to speak because he's very far right, but I think it's Ann Coulter something like that she's a regular conservative, and just because she was gonna go talk, they burned everything down also again, and they're silencing the conservative side, I would say. But also in the Republican side, they also do silence. But because it's only mainly Fox News, there's much less information from the right. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
I don't know if there's an answer to my question.
Can I?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna try to remain as apolitical in this as possible, and I also want to say I would love to continue this conversation for hours and hours. That would be something that I would be more than happy to do. But I just want to offer just a couple of possibilities here. One is, have you heard the expression, history has a liberal bias?
No.
Okay, I'm not trying to take a stand on it, but it is curious when you look back at social movements in the past, for example, conservatives who have fought against things like segregation of schools or equal access to anything for minorities and so on, those eventually get kind of quieted because the progress, social progress, is the idea of moving forward. So one thing that I would express caution with in kind of looking at, and I wrote this in the evaluation too, but in looking at the equal weight given to both sides, if we just simplify to left and right, we have to be careful in understanding that a lot of the right-leaning are very far right-leaning outlets. Whereas, and if you go back to the graphic, a lot of the left-leaning are just left of center. And so one thing that we have to be careful of, and especially if we look at a nonpartisan website such as PolitiFact, that rates the authenticity and veracity of claims made by political people and news outlets, Fox News is one of the least factual news organizations in the mainstream, certainly. And that is done objectively. We can arrive at those conclusions simply by looking at facts and stripping away from the bias. So I would just encourage you to dive a little bit more deeply and saying that, yes, I don't disagree, MSNBC is certainly a left-leaning and a lot of times to their own detriment. But there are other sources, right, where information can be garnered from a more neutral standpoint. But I think we also have to look in here. It is a manipulation of truth. It is an element of facts being distorted for personal or political gain. And we also, like I was asking earlier, one of the explanations for such a big disparity and distrust might not necessarily be that equally left and right-leaning outlets are being equally biased or they're equally point of view, but that rather the receivers of these messages are really instilling their own prejudices on it. And when you hear something that you don't like, cognitive dissonance, you tune it out, and you want to really respond in a more aggressive way. So I would encourage you, because I think there is a truth out there, and I think that you're absolutely right. This is a polarity that we have to be very concerned with, but I also think we have to be very careful about which conclusions we draw and how quickly we draw them based on what's going on in the world today.
Yes, I agree, but I want to point out that many of these polls, and this, for example, was done in 2014, so it's a little before the U.S. elections with Trump, and I think things changed with Trump and Hillary's campaign. Like before, I don't recall the media being so aggressive on to each other, and like now, for example, that one would say well, they don't have like proof that actual proof that Russia meddled in the elections. They have connections, but they don't have actual proof that they did it, and it's causing a huge uproar. And the
Jose Antonio, I think what you're experiencing is you are at a stage in your life where this is probably the first time you've really been, as a mature young adult, aware of the role that the press plays in society. I think what Ms. Kelty said at first is really, really important. The press plays an essential role in culture, and you're starting to understand what that role is, parts to those questions. So you're developing a level of comfort with that process, or discomfort with that process, and you're doing it, as are all your peers, in a generation where access to opinion-based news is equal to access to fact-based news. It used to cost a lot of money to create a newspaper. Now anybody who wants to make one in their basement can, and get it out to hundreds, thousands, millions of people if they get a following. So it's changing the rules of the game radically.
And the speed of it too, like it used to be that, you had months of investigative journalism to find out if these allegations are true, et cetera. In the day of 24-hour news service, no way. The minute a news story breaks, everybody has to be on it. And I think it's to our detriment, because we're not researching these stories the way the press used to. But now it's like, if you are not the first one out, then your ratings are going to plummet. So people do jump. All of the networks are definitely guilty of that. So something. When I have students bringing me phones all the time, nuclear war about to start. And it's Kelty, is this true? And I'm like, probably not. Wait 24 hours.
Yeah.
I think it'll be okay.
But you still have a test.
Right. The test is on, nuclear war, we don't know.
I think the most important thing that's come out of your presentation for me, Jose Antonio, is what is the role of the viewer? What is the role of the consumer within this cycle? Like, if we're gonna live in a world where we have that immediate access to news, what is the role of us? And I think for us, it looks to me like we can pass the test, right? Like, not very many people were fooled by the fake article. Like, maybe that's ultimately the responsibility we have, is to just use good common sense to distinguish between what is fact and what is fool tone.
I don't know if many read it and wanted to their I don't know if that it affected that they were here, because they were the same people, or some, that took the surveys.
What did you say?
I mean, first of all, we're all from volunteers that came here, or we're not random samples. And probably most of us didn't read it or even bother to raise our hands, so it's not really a good.
Yeah, the data was flawed. That's what I was trying to make sure that you discuss that.
Stanford just put out a great study about fake news. And if you need another source to finish up this last thing,
So, wait, I wanted to tell Mr.
Later.
that the problem is that, like, as there's only Fox News in the right, and we only focus on Fox News, but in the left, I think the same opinion and like with little facts arguments happen. Just that if there's so much going out there from their side that I think it covers more the side of like Fox News. I don't know, or I don't know if that. Well, but I understand
Okay.
your point.
No, it's very interesting and I think it's worth pursuing more.
Thanks for bringing this